Good morning, my name is Dr. Thomas Woolley and I work here in Cardiff University's Abacus building. Let's take a look inside.
The Abacus building is one of Cardiff's most recent completions, as it was finished in 2021, and it has large areas for lectures and also plenty of space for students to work and socialise. The building is home to both computer science and mathematics, which can be broadly split up into pure, applied and operations research, which is really one of the crown jewels of Cardiff mathematics. The operations research group work a lot with the NHS and try and optimise their processes. For example, they've worked on where to place ambulances around Cardiff to ensure they get to emergencies as quickly as possible. They've also worked with the NHS hospitals to optimise the usage of surgical theatres, thus saving time and money. So before we get into the mathematics of this piece, what I want to do is give you a little bit about my background so you know where I come from. Specifically, I come from a little town called Alfton in Derbyshire, around the Midlands of the UK. Now, I come from a very working class background, and of course there's nothing wrong with that, but I made sure to work really hard in school because I wanted to ensure that I had more opportunities for careers later on in life. Now, that worked really well for me because I managed to get a place at Oxford University. And I studied lots of different types of mathematics. I studied differential equations, algebra, analysis, Fourier transforms. But it wasn't really till my second year where I found my passion, which was mathematical biology. Specifically, it was work after a little-known mathematician called Alan Turing. You may have heard of him. He's known as the father of computation and also worked on breaking the Enigma code during World War II. Now, the mathematics that he worked on was trying to understand pattern formation. Everything from zebra stripes to the formation of fingers. So if you work out the mathematics behind the mechanisms of biology, you're able to reproduce that biology and understand what is happening. So whereas a biologist may be able to say why the pattern is there, it's for mating reasons or for aggression or for camouflage, the mathematician can tell you how it gets there. So we can understand how shells produce stripes, fish produce stripes and spots, and we can even understand how mice produce whiskers. Now, one thing I really enjoy about mathematics is not just doing the maths, the mathematical biology that I love so much, but I also enjoy presenting mathematics because I like showing people the beauty that I see every day. So I've been lucky enough to travel around the world to New York, Athens, China, and present mathematics to everyone that I meet. I've also been lucky enough to work on TV programs demonstrating mathematics to a wider population. And I've also managed to work with the Science Museum redeveloping their mathematics gallery. So what this highlights is that if you really do enjoy a subject, be it mathematics or not, work hard at it because that work will pay off. I do love mathematical biology, but there are many other fields of mathematics that I also love that I don't really get to work with on a day-to-day basis. Two such areas are graph theory and topology, and what I really like about them is that they remove this idea of distance and size. So it doesn't matter how big you are or how far apart you are, it only matters how you're connected. And what's really great about these two areas of mathematics is that they really came about through brain teasers, little problems that you might come across in your everyday life. And one of them is exactly here. There's the idea of the bridges of Königsberg. So Königsberg was a city in Prussia in the 18th century. Now it's called Kaliningrad in Russia. And in the 18th century, there were no Xboxes, there were no TVs. So what people did was they would walk around their city to entertain themselves and take in the sights, the sounds, the smells. But like most cities back then, it had a river cutting through it. So what you can see in this bottom left-hand picture is a map of Königsberg, and hopefully you can see that there are 7 bridges. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So what people would do is they would walk around their city and they would try and challenge themselves to walk around the city such that they would cross every bridge once and only once. Now, the map here isn't the best to show the bridges, but let me redraw it on the right here. Hopefully you can see I've changed things around a little bit, but it hasn't altered the problem. We have 4 pieces of land and we have the 7 bridges, connected them just as in the original Königsberg map. Okay? And so here's your challenge. Can we reverse this map using every bridge once and only once? Let's have a go. When you don't know what to do, have a go. So we're going to start on this top piece of land first, okay? And let's go through bridge 1, bridge 2, good start, through bridge 3, bridge 4. We can't do bridge 5 because bridge 5 isn't connected to the top. Fine, okay. So bridge 6 and then bridge 5, okay, but we've missed out bridge 7. Okay, so that didn't work. Let's try somewhere else. Again, trial and error isn't bad. It just helps us gaining an understanding of the problem. So let's start in the middle here and let's try again. Through 1, 4, 2 and 3. Okay, that's fine. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 done. And this time we'll go through 5 and 6. But again, we've left 7. Okay, 7's obviously a bit of a problem. That right-hand island is difficult. So let's start there. If that's the difficult part, let's try there. So let's start here and go over 7 to make sure it's done. Over 3, over 5, over 6. And so we've done all the bridges on that right-hand island. We don't have to worry about them anymore. Great. Through 4 and through 1. Close again, but we've still got 1 bridge left over. Okay, I obviously have not been able to solve it. So what I want you to have a go is you try yourself. I'm going to give you 10 seconds, or you can pause the video, and I want you to have a go. Can you cross the bridges of Königsberg, all 7 of them, once and only once? Did you manage to do it? Now, if you said you did, I've got some bad news for you. And if you couldn't do it, then you have been wasting your time as well. Because unfortunately, this problem can't be solved. Well, one way of solving this problem is proof by exhaustion, where we started all the possible points in our map and we travel along every combination of bridges that we can do. And very quickly you'll see that having enumerated all possibilities, none of them cover all bridges. And that's fine. It would definitely prove your point that it was impossible. But it's not very generalizable. So if I added a bridge or took a bridge away or added a land, you couldn't use your old solution. You'd have to start again and draw all possible connections. So it is a solution, but it's not the most efficient. The best way to understand this is through understanding how Leonhard Euler, the mathematician you see here, how he saw it. And what he understood was this idea of removing how big things are, how big a piece of land is, how far a bridge is. We don't care. All we care is how the lands are connected via the bridges. So Leonhard Euler perhaps wouldn't have thought about the bridges of Königsberg in this form. He may have actually abstracted the problem, what we see on the right, as a graph. So we don't care how big the land C is or how big the land A is. All we care is that C and A are connected via 2 bridges. That's what we see here. So C has been shrunk to a point or a node, and C and A are connected via 2 bridges or 2 edges. Fantastic. And you can see that A, B, C, D, all those pieces of land have been shrunk to points, and they're connected by the right numbers of bridges or edges, as the original map suggests. Okay, so that has simplified the view of the problem, but has it solved it? Not really. That comes down to Euler's second piece of genius. Again, let me assume that I am doing this tour, and I can do it, but I'm not at the beginning of the end. So I'm going around all my bridges, going across them. Then because I'm not at the end, every time I enter a node or a piece of land, I must be able to exit it. So if I enter twice, I must be able to exit it twice. Enter 3 times, exit 3 times. So every piece of land or node must have an even number of bridges or edges. Fantastic. And what he also noticed was that if all nodes have an even number of connectors, then you can start anywhere or end anywhere. But what he also noticed was that at the beginning, you only need to leave your beginning node once. Equally at the end, you only need to enter the node once. So he was able to characterize the entire problem by saying that if all of my nodes have an even number of connectors, great, start anywhere, end anywhere, and you can cross every edge once and only once. But moreover, if there are 2 and exactly 2 nodes in my graph, that have an odd number of edges, I can still do it, but one of those nodes must be the beginning and one of those nodes must be the end. So let's apply that knowledge now to the bridges of conic bow problem that we have here. Let's start at land A. Land A has 5 bridges connecting it to the other places, and you can see that also on the graph. Okay, so 5 bridges. That's fine. Okay, it's not even, but we can still deal with that as long as there's only 2 nodes with odd numbers of connectors. So let's look at D, and again D has 3 connectors. Okay, we have our 2 odd nodes. If this is to be traversable, if we're able to do the tour that we're looking at, then no other nodes can have odd numbers of connectors. Let's see if that's true. So let's have a look at C. C has 3 bridges connecting it, as does B. So they also both have odd numbers of edges. So because there are more than 2 nodes with odd numbers of edges, I cannot go around this map using every bridge once and only once. But now let me suppose that I destroy one of these bridges. Let me destroy the connector between A and D. What about now? Well, I have 4 bridges stemming from A. I have 2 bridges stemming from D. Both even, both great, don't worry about them. What about B and C? Well, they both have 3 bridges connecting them. Fantastic. From Euler's characterization of the problem, I can now traverse this map, but I have to either start at B or C and end at B or C. So let's show that this can be done. Let's start at B. Let me go into A via the first bridge, up to C, back into A, back down to B, into D, and then back to C. So I've started in B and I end in C, and I've traversed every bridge once and only once. But to do this, I have to have destroyed the bridge connecting A to D. Fantastic. So now what I want to do is challenge you a little bit further. Take 10 seconds, or again, pause the video, and have a go at the next 3 challenges. Which one of these can I traverse such that I go along each line once and only once? Have a go. Did you manage to do it? Well, let's have a go. In this first left-hand graph, the top left node has 2 edges stemming from it. Top right has 4. Pretty good, both even. We're on our way. Bottom left has 4. Bottom right has 2. So according to Euler, I should be able to start at any node and finish any node and be able to cross all of these lines once and only once. Well, let's try it. Let's start at this top right hand 4. I can go to 2, down to 4, up to 4 again, down to 2, over to 4, and then back round to 4. And as you can see, I've created the graph again, and I've gone along every bridge once and only once. Fantastic. What about the middle one? Well, same idea applies. Top left, top right, bottom left, and bottom right all have 3 edges leading out from them. So I don't even need to consider the middle one. There are more than 2 nodes with an odd number of edges leading out of them. So I cannot traverse this graph such that I use every line once and only once. Okay, let's have a look at the right hand one, which is a slight extension of the middle one. All I've done is added a new point and 2 more edges. That's all that's added here. So let's have a look at what I can do here. So let me count the edges. So here I have 3, here I have 3. Okay, top left, bottom left, both have 3. As long as no other nodes have odd numbers of edges, I can traverse this path. The middle node has 4, good. Top right has 4, the right middle node has 2, bottom right has 4. So again, Euler says I should be able to traverse this path, but I need to either start at the top left or bottom left, and I need to end top left or bottom left. So let's try it. Bottom left. I go to the right, up, down, up to the middle, up to the top right, down to the bottom right, to the middle right, top right, then top left. Took me a second there, but I managed to do it. So we have this wonderful, simple characterization of being able to traverse a map using every edge once and only once. Okay, that's fun. It's a brain teaser, but what you might be thinking about then is, so what? Who cares? Well, what started out as a simple brain teaser is actually very important and has many applications. So one particular application that many people use every day is the London Underground map. You know, it doesn't matter how far away they are. All we care about is how they're connected. What routes must I go through? What stations must I go through to get from one station to another? It doesn't matter how far they are, only matters on their connections. So the map as it stands, the London Underground map, isn't actually a geographical map. The places aren't in relative correct places. All they are shown to do is, with relative ease, show you the connections between all the different stations. So what started out as a very simple, trivial brain teaser that people would do on a Sunday morning in the 18th century has become actually very important to our modern day living. And that's maths all over. Maths is a playground for the mind. It's all about that abstraction where you can take reality, throw away most of it, and see what's still left. What can we apply logic to understand the fundamental problem? And then if you're lucky, you can then redress the problem in reality, and it still maintains something useful. But it doesn't have to, not always. And I say that's the beauty of mathematics. Whether you stay in the abstract or you then try to apply it, the maths is still wonderful and beautiful underneath. But again, you might be a bit more mercenary about this and say, well, okay, how does this put money in my pocket? Well, being a mathematician is probably one of the most employable degrees you could get. Mathematics trains you to be a problem solver. It trains you in this abstraction process. And that is one of the most employable skills that employers look for. They want people to be able to give them a problem and say, okay, I need a solution for this. How do you do that? Where do you start? Those kind of questions are trained into you as a mathematician. You try and simplify the problem, throw away bits. Can I solve the simple problem? Yes. Then I try and build in the complexity until I can try and solve the full problem. And if you have those skills, you will be immensely employable in just about any field I can imagine. And so good luck with your mathematics. And hopefully in a few years, I will see you here in Cardiff University, and I will be teaching you mathematical biology.